Sage Wanderer here, coming at you from Weatherford, Texas, the cutting horse capital of the world. Today, I want to talk to you about the John Titor timeline. Don't. So if you're a fan of the channel, you know that I've been talking about a person who claimed to be a time traveler from the future named John Titor. The story kind of goes like this if you're unaware of John Titor. He called into a radio show in the 80s and 90s and claimed to be a time traveler from the future. He claimed in his future that he lived in a post-Second Civil War America, where the country folk and the city folk went to war. Now, what caused the war between the country folk and the city folk in John Titor's timeline? It was election meddling. Don't. He claimed that a president arose who the people believed was elected due to fraudulent use of voter machines. Don't. Now, this was 30 years before voter machines were a thing, or 20 to 30 years before we use real, like, modern digital voting machines like we do now. And John Titor claimed that someone tampered with the voting machines and a president was elected who was considered illegitimate, and that a civil war broke out kind of around disarming gun owners in the rural areas, as well as rebellions based on withholding of taxes and the claiming by city folks of crops and other properties owned by country people to support the cities who did not have the ability to raise food themselves, and this draconian attack on country folk and their rights through the cities. And I think we are living in the John Titor timeline. Don't. Or is it don't. You gotta laugh to keep from crying. If you've been watching the channel, you know I've been talking about the Civil War brewing in America. And the fact that it seems, especially in places like Virginia, the cities are telling the country people that they're not allowed to have guns. And the people in the sanctuary counties are passing laws in Virginia to stop the state government from taking away their Second Amendment rights. And part of the threat that the country folk are waging currently against the city folk in Virginia is the threat of not collecting and returning state taxes to the state house, but keeping them for the county to run their own county governments. And that this would be the first defense against counties against a state government that has become corrupted and illegitimate. It's also the first remedy for states against the United States. In fact, when Bill Clinton, President of the United States, tried to force George W. Bush, the governor of Texas, to adopt helmet laws, Texas withheld government funding to the government taxes, federal taxes, that we collect on behalf of the federal government, when we did not give them taxes on gasoline and taxes on different things, and we withheld those taxes. And Bill Clinton, the President of the United States, then withheld federal funding for our highways in Texas. And there was almost a civil war, even it was just over the collection and distribution of taxes, over the helmet law for motorcycle riders. And this, you can look this up, this happened when Clinton was president and Bush was governor of Texas. So this kind of thing has happened before, in a much smaller degree, and not over something as important as a constitutionally guaranteed right to keep and bear arms. So, you know, we've got this going on in Virginia. We're seeing, I've talked in the past about how places are being controlled by the cities and the country people have had enough of it. Are we following John Titor's timeline? If so, are we to expect the 2020 elections to be not just interfered with by Ukraine or by Russia, but are we to expect a 2020 election where the digital voting machines are hacked? There's some talk that this kind of thing was happening in Virginia, and that's how a mostly red state ends up with a totally blue government. Potentially you might want to look into Millennial Millie's reporting on the election issues in this most recent election in Virginia. According to John Titor, the time traveler, Are we to expect now in 2020 a hacking of our voter machines to put an illegitimate president in place? Or is it that Trump's going to win by a landslide and the left is going to claim it's because of voter fraud? Is that the next card these whiners play when they lose again? And could this be that history in John Titor's timeline remembered it as truth when maybe it was and maybe it wasn't? Are both sides going to claim now voter fraud if one wins over the other? Can we ever have a genuine election again without someone crying foul? Has the trust in the system been annihilated? Can we ever get it back? I will say this, you're not going to get back faith in the system by adopting digital voting machines that can be hacked and tampered with by the click of a mouse. Let's go to the blue thumb. You want to avoid civil war over this election? Everybody votes. You stick your thumb in the ink. You don't get to vote if your thumb is blue. You only get to vote if your thumb's not blue. Once you vote, your thumb gets blue and it stays that way for a week. This is what they had to do in countries that didn't have voter registration. And to even get to stand up there and dunk your thumb, you're going to have to prove that you are a United States citizen. And that doesn't mean your driver's license anymore, unfortunately, since they're giving driver's license to illegal aliens in so many states and so many counties and sanctuary cities around the country. Okay? So, are we looking at the John Titor timeline? Are we looking at a civil war between the city mouse and the country mouse? Well, according to John Titor, the country folk win when Russia nukes the cities. God save our republic. Don't.